We come now to Christopher Stobs, President of IFOM-EU. You got now all you need from the policymakers. Now we are waiting the voice and opinion of the sector on direction.
Thank you, Marco. Friends old and new, friends yet to be made, IFOM members, and perhaps also people who will become IFOM members very soon after hearing what we have just heard today. Commissioner, ministers, thank you for organising and participating in this conference, and thank you particularly to our Hungarian partners Biocultura and Biocontrol, and of course the Hungarian presidency itself for participating and co-hosting this conference. When I was thinking what I might say today, I thought I would have to give you the information, the background, the context of organic farming. I'm glad I didn't prepare that speech because, of course, that case has been well made by my fellow panelists. I feel honoured to share a platform with a visionary commissioner, with visionary ministers, parliamentarians, and personally, I hope at the end of my short contribution, we should give them a standing ovation. I was moved to do that, Commissioner, after you spoke, because I think you gave the most cogent argument for the most robust and coherent support for organic farming in Europe. So perhaps I need to say little more. But if we're talking about mainstream sustainability, in my view, the proof that we have successfully mainstreamed sustainability is in the high level of participation we have in this Congress today. We have members of the Council, the Commission, the Parliament, the current presidency, and the future forthcoming presidency. All of those people have taken the time after the informal council meeting to come here to the IFOM-EU Group Congress. I think that demonstrates the importance that you place on organic farming. Why do you place that importance? Well, I think you each explained in your own way why you place that importance on organic farming as an engine to drive change in the right direction for the future of European agriculture. You recognise the need for models for sustainable food and farming. You recognise the need for a focus on quality. I believe, and I think many here will agree after hearing what you've already said, fellow panellists, that organic farming is one such model. It's well worked out and well defined. And most importantly, Commissioner, I share your view that it is the basis in values that counts for most. I think we need to communicate effectively those values because it is only through enabling willing consumers and willing citizens on our road of the importance of the values that we hold dear of protecting animals, of looking after good food, of ensuring that the environment is maintained and biodiversity protected. It's only by emphasising those values that we can really challenge the prevailing model that we have before us. Now, as you know, some of us arrived late. We were chasing Commissioner Ciolos down the motorway to get here, indeed, because we were coming hot foot from the informal Council of Ministers meeting in Debrecen. I've already said that the time that these people have taken to come and be with us is an indication of their commitment to mainstreaming sustainability. And participation at that informal council meeting by the IFOM-EU group was an exceptional and unique opportunity for communicating the case for organic farming at the very highest level. Briefly, I should say, of course, that inevitably, perhaps, cucumbers dominated the Council's discussion, and I think we must express our deepest sympathy for all of those suffering this most terrible case of contamination. Today, we know the cases are falling, but the causes are not yet known. And of course, we, along with everybody, will address the causes as soon as we know what they are. Fortunately, the authorities are working together, and we need full transparency as we begin to understand the root causes of this dreadful case. But to return to the informal council meeting, the focus of it was a focus on sustainable livestock production. The question was asked, how can we achieve sustainable livestock production? Well, I think many of us here, advocates of organic farming, understand the key features of sustainability, and they're good and illustrative of the ways in which we must seek to mainstream sustainability in the future. Sustainable livestock production involves feeding for health of the animal. It involves an understanding and an expression of the importance of ethics and values to ensure animal welfare through good husbandry. We know that the issue of breeding is important, and we know that the environment must be protected. So just to go a little bit more into the detail of each of those, because of course you can unpack the ways of mainstreaming sustainability in any particular productive sector, and we have not time to go into every one, but let's reflect, since this was the Council's focus, let's reflect on sustainable livestock production. So if we're feeding livestock for health, we're not dependent on large quantities of imported feed, which exert a devastating global footprint. We're looking at livestock diets that are suited to the physiology of the animal. We exclude genetic modification for reasons of ethics and also on the basis of the precautionary principle. Recent evidence has come to light of the survival of GM-derived toxins in animals. So the bland assurances from the genetically modified industry cannot be accepted as sufficient reassurance for our future protection. We're talking about feeding primarily grass to ruminants, which is a vital part of a balanced system, and as we've heard, delivers benefits in terms of high nature value, for example. Turning to ethics and animal welfare, we're not using cruel systems, and I believe we must emphasize that sustainability cannot be bought at the cost of animal welfare. For breeding, we're thinking of maintaining the diversity of breeds which are able to perform well on forage or in free-range systems. And of course, that is directly in opposition to the idea, which is abhorrent, I think, to everyone present, of cloning as a way of increasing so-called productivity. And finally, environmental protection through enabling systems that enhance biodiversity, limit pollution, and protect against climate change are all essential. So all of these reasons, and they apply equally in other sectors as well, demonstrate the way in which organic farming should be promoted as the most obvious method for promoting sustainability. Not perhaps the only one, but it clearly is able to meet the requirements and is a useful model. Production-orientated solutions are clearly not enough. We must focus on sufficiency of production, not the excess that we currently see. Hence, consumption issues must be addressed. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the recent report from the Scientific Committee on Agricultural Research, SCAR. This has promoted and reinforced the idea that agroecological approaches are essential for the future of effective and sustainable farming systems, and it highlights not only production-orientated approaches but also the concept of sufficiency. So clearly, turning to consistent policies to shape this future, CAP is clearly at the heart of it. Sustainability, I'm sure we all agree, and has been ably expressed by our Commissioner, sustainability must be built into the whole of CAP. But I think it's important that it isn't only expressed in specific measures buried in Pillar 2. It must be brought to the fore throughout the entire policy. To that end, of course, organic farming would then be supported effectively in all member states, but we've got to be aware of the challenges for co-financing for some member states. So it is essential that we have measures in place that will encourage the development of the sector without a reliance on co-financing. Nothing, in my view, is more important. Finally, having talked a little on the larger issues and expressed my admiration for my fellow panellists in explaining why organic farming is so important, I must briefly reflect on the issue of the wine rules, which we urgently need to finalise. Commissioner, we know this is an issue close to your heart, and we appreciate that you started the process with a very reasonable and coherent approach. I make this commitment here today to offer to help find a solution which is agreeable to all member states, and I am able to give my personal guarantee, Commissioner, that the iPhone EU group and all our members will give you our full support. So I hope we can look forward to resolving that detail in the bigger context of reformed common agricultural policy for the future. And now I would really like to propose that we give Commissioner and the Ministers a standing ovation for what they've done.